Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Opinion Machine, the show where we talk about all things gaming. My name is Killjoy, and today what you are looking at is the Nintendo Switch port of Borderlands 3. And if you are fairly well known with the game, you're going to be like, ooh, that's quite the downgrade. And you would be correct. So, I've been wanting to look at this port myself for a very long time, since it got announced, and I've seen the reviews, I've seen the gameplay, I've seen the side-by-side comparisons, but I myself wanted to kind of get a look and feel of what this game is like in terms of how it runs and all that good stuff. Straight off the bat, I can tell you right now, like, if you have alternate ways of playing this game, you probably want to play it somewhere else. However, it clearly works okay enough for a handheld. I don't play my Switch in handheld very much, so I tend to play a lot of this stuff on the go. I now have every single Borderlands game on my Switch. I'm very happy about that, and I enjoy it. Before we get to properly looking around so I can show certain things off, let's talk about the options menu, because there's some stuff in here that actually surprised me. There's a lot more options to this game than I was expecting. If we go to visuals, you've got a limited frame rate, so you can allow the user to limit the frame rate. We can stick that on capped. You can also calibrate your display there. If I go to capped, it's going to go, never going to go above 30 frames. And if I spin on the spot, you can kind of you can probably tell it's 30 frames. It's running weirdly. But I'm going to leave it on uncapped because I find that fascinating that the game can actually do that. So that means certain areas there will be slightly higher frame rate than 30. Sounds, everything that you'd want and expect. Master, sound effects, music, dialogue, player callouts, and you can change how you want the speaker to be. I will say this right now. There seems to be a weird audio bug with enemies. So if there's enemies near you, they'll shout really loud, even if they're not that near you. Like, it's very bizarre. So there is a little of a bug, a glitch there, if you will. We've got controls. So this is pretty good. We've got everything you would expect for controls in the game. We've got the rumble. Motion controls, I'll show you those properly in a sec. They do work, that you can customize them. I think there's great that they're in here. I love the fact that pretty much all FPS games on Switch always seem to have them. You've got all your vertical look, all that sort of stuff. We've got the advanced stuff, so forward movement. You can change how that works. Strafe movement, your dead zones, and then you can. There's your buttons. Buttons on the right hand side. You can change the sticks, and turn into southpaws, old school, all that good sort of stuff, which is cool. The driving stuff, and you can actually customize the controls if you want. So if you get a customized controls, you can do it all there. So, which is really cool. Massive fan of that. Gameplay wise, what we've got here, we've got the difficulty, which you can adjust accordingly. Tutorials, main menu tutorials, gore, I've got it set on censored. Vertical position, centered or lowered, which is interesting. So lowered position, the vertical slightly lower, allowing for a greater view of the world. Centered position the vehicle in the center of the screen, showing off more of the weapons. I haven't even tried this. Let's try it. Rotate the minimap, rotate the player. Minimap legendaries on, speed units miles per hour. Let's see what happens if I put the so that's with the crosshair lower apparently. Let's can't tell what the difference is, if I'm honest. But I'm sure there's a probably has its use there. Network and social. Group privacy, matchmaking, a load of stuff here, which is really cool. And then accessibility, we've got aim assist on. All games tend to, on consoles, have aim assist on. Snap to target, hold for ADS. And then we've got a camera head bob, you can turn it off. Sprint can be toggled to be crouch or hold. Sprint and crouch can be toggled to be toggled or hold. Mantle with forward, I believe this is, well, automatic. Is it? Mantling will occur when pressing forward towards a ledge, which is kind of cool. And then you got visuals, friendly, white, all this sort of stuff. Could go with a colorblind mode in here. That'd be kind of cool. But at least there's stuff there for people. All in all, this has better options than I was expecting it to be for a Switch game. Let's have a look at the. This is me moving the controller. You can obviously adjust the sensitivity here. It probably looks easier with this gun because it's got a scope on it. But yeah, you can see that, and it's cool. I'm glad it's here. So first off, the fact that the game has all these options is really cool. Obviously, there is a massive visual downgrade, right? If I walk out, you can see, if you look at the distance of those rocks over the back there, while I'm walking. Lots of aliasing, stuff popping in. The draw distance is kind of impressive, but not what it is. You're going to see that essentially the frames are going up and down constantly. If I start running, you can already see that you might be able to hear as well now. Oh, one thing I really like. This version of the game highlights the enemies. That, I don't remember being in the PC version. That might be in the other console version. But, big fan of that. But the enemy sounds are so, like, messed up. I don't know if that's because I need to change how the sounds are in the setting. It says small speaker. Could be that. Try and use some of the aiming here. Try and free aim. Boom. So it's kind of nuts to me. I find this fascinating. This game works. Oh, enemy spawns might be slightly lower in this game as well. I don't think the game allows it to spawn as many enemies into the world as possible. Let's go over this way. Let's go have a little look. I mean, it's running okay. If you look at the fan up there, you can see the fan's running fairly alright. But it is running at around 30 frames, if not slightly lower. You can see when I turn the camera, juttering, and the water looks static as all hell. I mean, look at that. Texture quality is not going to be great. But all in all, I do genuinely find that this port, having put like an hour into it and just messing around in it, once there's a lot going on screen, that's when things start to get a bit more crazy. But I think what always fascinates me with the Switch is that console where it's like, I want to see games come to this. Ooh, look at that. Bit of heavy lag there. The game hitching. You know, I am that person that wanted to, you know, got to see Doom. I now have every Borderlands game on Switch. You know, it's a for how old the hardware is, it's kind of crazy just how many games are ported. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, just because you can, you should. But I will say, so far in this early area, and there are parts of this game that are going to be utterly nuts, where I know full well that it's going to struggle with. And I think that might be why, you know, you have a lower enemy count. What I will say is, like, some of these rock textures, and this is, I know don't look nearly as sharp, but some of this stuff looks more than feasible without comparing it with the PC version and probably the other console versions. Yes, some of these textures are awful. This water texture looks dreadful, but some of it ain't too bad. Okay, there's an alias in there on Zane model. Let's just change a different gun a second. So I've got some. What's this one? But you also have you have all the elements. Like if you go to social, you have all of the elements. I'm offline currently, which is fine. Oh yeah, so being offline also means that you're not worrying about that sort of stuff. So I'm not having my game constantly telling me about people being online and things like that. But it has all the same stuff as the other versions. This is a complete version. Like this. Whoops. No, don't do that. This version, this is the ultimate version. It comes with every single piece of DLC, which is also kind of crazy in its own. You know, I mean, you can clearly see this is a muddy version. Now, I played the PC version on low settings when I first played it, and even I don't think it got to this point. You can definitely see where the game's hitching. You can see where the frame timings are kind of all over the place. Like, it's struggling to run on this Switch. Let's not deny that. You know, I managed to pick this up fairly cheap, right? I got this for £25 on Amazon, and I'm very happy that I was able to pay that for it. I think it's worth it, but it's only going to be worth it to people who don't have another way of playing this game. If you're fine with playing it around 30 frames a second, and you don't mind it being muddy, and you have no other way of playing it, you've got the full game here, right? This is the entirety of Borderlands 4. Just expect a game that looks quite well. Just look. If you look at the floor and move, you can actually cut some of that like frame dips and stuff out a little bit. But you can see that this game is jaggy as all hell. There are so much like aliasing going on. It still impresses me. I'm very curious to see how this game turns out. The music keeps doing weird things as well. That's interesting. It's like restarting. I know this game has got patches. This game has got things added to it. quality of life. I know they've gone in and tried to do various things to it, because I had a look myself, and it has a bit of a download. You do kind of require a download to play this game. But all in all, let's go and see Ellie. Let's see how the game... Some of the character models aren't awful in this. Once they load in, they're still low poly, or low resolution I should say, but they're not as bad as I was expecting them to be. Like, Ellie looks like Ellie. It's just less defined. Let's go see the actual model not in a cutscene. Yeah, could be a lot worse. Ultimately, this is... I'm glad that this is on Switch. I'm glad that people that don't, you know, have a Switch and they aren't fortunate enough to have a higher powered console or stuff like that can play this game. It's not perfect. It's far from perfect. It's muddy as all hell. A lot of the textures are very aliased. The game likes to hitch and all this sort of stuff. But what you are getting, and considering the price of this game now, if you can pick this up for like 25 quid, what you're essentially getting is every single bit of DLC and everything else in it for a decent price. Ooh, that's better than the one I've got. But yeah, I wanted to take a look at it quickly and sort of just say, look, hey, this is a thing. It exists. This fascinates me. Seeing this actually in action and playing it. The compression on YouTube is going to make it look even worse, because it's not... I've been playing this on a big TV. It's not awful. But people are going to look at it and go, oh my god, that's ugly. You compare it to other games. The fact that it is a cel-shaded art style for the most part, like comic booky as well, definitely helps. If this was a realistic looking game, it would look pretty bad. But ultimately, if you are morbidly curious and you have no other way of playing it, but ultimately, I think it's definitely like worth checking out. Get it on the cheap. Get it in a physical copy, which is what I did. Because I think it's be one of those ones that's like, people look back on the Switch and they'll look at things like Doom as the obvious one, as like, hey, this was a really good first-person shooter. But I think this was done by Saber Interactive as a port, and they're very good at getting games working on Switch. So ultimately, I'm very, very intrigued by this. I'm probably going to play the entire game through this. If I want to do like a proper playthrough or something, I would do it on PC or on something that's higher fidelity. But ultimately, I'm glad that this exists on Switch. So hopefully this is just a little bit of a fun video, show you some insight into it. Having there are way more options than I expected, and seeing this is just the earlier part of the game. I'm sure this game later on gets even worse because of the crazy stuff that's going on, but hey, it exists. It's awesome that it exists, and I'm glad that more people get to play it. I'm sure this version probably did pretty well on Switch. So anyway, that's going to do it for me today then, guys. Thank you very much for watching, as always. If you like the video, hit like. If you want to see more content, then hit the subscribe button. Links for Facebook and Twitter will be down below in the description. And as always, I will see you next video.